Open up your funk Bible and turn to page Le Grind for this episode of the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. Joining me again to talk about the first track on the infamous Black Album, aka the Funk Bible, is Micah Simpson. Welcome back to the show, Micah.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. So yeah, we're here to talk about Le Grind, the first song off the Black Album. And some people might, be listening to this episode coming on right after I've wrapped up the Sign of the Times episode and wondering what's going on, because this album wasn't released until 1994. Like, it officially was released in November of 1994. So why am I jumping straight into the Black Album right after Sign of the Times when, there's Love Sexy and Batman and Graffiti Bridge and Diamonds and Pearls and et cetera, et cetera? Well, I mean, the reason why, and I think anybody who's familiar with the history behind the album can attest to, is that the Black Album is for all intents and purposes, an 80s record. It was recorded primarily 86, 87. It contains a song that was intended for the Camille Project, which was supposed to come out in like 86. Mm-hmm. The song we're going to be talking about today, the Le Grind song, was recorded in December of 1986. I mean, this is an 80s album. I mean, there's just no way to dismiss that fact. Just because it got released in 94, in my mind, it's an 80s album. It fits in with the 80s sound. It just doesn't sound like the 90s albums that Prince was making. It doesn't have any of the New Jack Swing. It doesn't have any of, the rapping that he incorporated into his early 90s music. It just doesn't fit in with his 90s records from a sonic standpoint. And if Prince would have gotten his way originally, or I should say maybe if Warner Brothers would have gotten their way, this album would have been released in December of 1987 and had a street date of December 8th, 1987, that it was targeted to be, shipped to record stores like 8 months after double album Sign of the Times was released, which is kind of bonkers that Prince was, thinking of having a double album in the first half of the year and then releasing yet another album in the second half of the year. Granted, this album, which has been kind of dubbed the Black Album, I mean, that's not technically its name. It wasn't even going to have a name. It was just going to be like a black sleeve with a number on it, like, a listing number. And there wasn't going to be any credit to Prince on the record. It was just kind of gonna show up. And people are going to have to just, word of mouth, figure out, who it was by and what it was all about. It just kind of became dubbed the Black Album partially because of its just stark black cover. And I guess there's even some suspected history behind the album, that he recorded it kind of as a response to some of the criticisms he was receiving from some of his black followers and black supporters that thought maybe he was going a little too pop, and where was the funk? the stuff that made him, really popular in the black community in the late 70s, early 80s was kind of, falling on the wayside with albums like Parade and Around the World in a Day, which do have funk on them, but they're not funk focused. He was experimenting with a lot of different sounds and styles for those two albums. And of course, Purple Rain was a very rock oriented record. Mm-hmm. So, that there's some speculation about the creation of this album for that reason as well. But it's very infamous for that reason, because Prince decided last minute, you know what, I'm not going to release this album. He had Warner Brothers pull all of the copies that were supposed to be shipped. Of course, there were some promo copies that made it out into to various stores, I think mostly in Europe. So those copies are some of the most bootlegged and most valuable vinyl records that exist in history. So it does have its kind of historical significance for being one of the most bootlegged albums of all time, and also one of the most expensive if you can find, one of those original promo copies that still found its way out there. But the actual album itself, the official release, did not find its way into stores until 1994. So kind of an interesting history. He pulled it because I guess he thought it was, too evil. It wasn't like in the vibe that it was, because by the time it was supposed to come out, it had been almost a year, or 6 months or 7 months after he'd recorded all the songs. He was starting to go down a more spiritual path, and it just didn't feel. I guess it just didn't sit right with him. Like the lyrical content, some of the themes that he was singing about, just didn't feel right to him. So that, and I'm not going to speculate on, was it a drug trip that widely, has been passed around as far as that has gone. It's almost like become quote unquote fact at this point, even though I don't know if it's fact. I mean,
we'll just say allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly he had like an ecstasy trip, and the end result was he felt really bad about this album and just wanted to ditch it, to pretend like it didn't exist. And then, of course, you get the infamous Don't Buy the Black Album, I'm Sorry, hidden message in Alphabet Street, the first song off of, or the first single off of his next album, real next album, Love Sexy. Mm-hmm. So, Micah, I know you're a little younger than me, so, I mean, I didn't have much of a history with this album. I was only 12 when the album was supposed to be released, so I wasn't looking for bootlegs as a 12-year-old in 1987. What's your history with this album? How did you become aware of it, and how did you end up finally hearing it?
The first time I actually heard about it or read about it, I believe, I want to say, was in the liner notes for the hits and B-sides set, maybe. I think that was the first time I sort of caught wind of it. And I didn't, after that, I didn't know too much about it. Never heard any of the music. And then, because back then, in 1987, I was about 7 years old. So I didn't, even back then, I never even heard of it. I didn't hear the album or hear much more about it until, I want to say, when the Warner Brothers decided that they were going to officially release it. So, and I think at that point, that was 94. So I was about 14 years old. And I had read about it even more in some of the Prince bio books that I had bought at the time. So I was just really just sort of reading up and really sort of to advance my knowledge as a Prince fan, because I was a little bit younger. But so when they officially dropped it, and this was around the holidays, I believe, back in '94, mm-hmm. I bought the cassette tape with my allowance. So I remember getting the cassette, and actually I'm looking at it right now. So it has the hyper sticker. It says Prince's name in peach, the font, and the legendary Black Album, limited edition. So I said, okay. So I went home and listened to it, and by that time, I was still learning, how to pinpoint. And I'm sure you've done this too now, that when you hear a lot of vault tracks, your ear can kind of tell about what period he probably recorded this music. Yeah. But to your point in the intro, when you said that, this was released in '94, and it's very much an '80s album, so it didn't match up to the music of that time that Prince was doing. And that's one of the things I really observed. And I said, oh, okay, so this was an album that he recorded back then. Because and at that time, I don't think I had the Love Sexy album yet, but that's another story. But I could tell, but I was familiar with Alphabet Street and just that sound. So when I listened to the album, I could tell it was sort of like how do you want to say it? I guess like the bridge between Sign of the Times going into Love Sexy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, I mean, legendary. The fact that they put legendary on the sticker for the final release in '94 almost told you what you need to know about it, even if you weren't like I think we were just a little too young to really kind of be caught up in the hype and the myth making that this album had in the late '80s. I mean, people were trying to bootleg it, like I'd already mentioned, and people who had gotten a copy were, praising it. I think people were like other musicians, kind of more famously, U2, Bono, and The Edge had listed it both on their best albums in 1988, even though it never got a release because, they knew somebody who knew somebody and got a copy. And so people were, praising it. And for the vast majority of the population, this was an unheard album. So I can imagine how eager somebody would have been who was just seeing all this praise heaped onto this unreleased Prince album after he had recorded such a masterpiece that Sign of the Times was. Can you imagine how just like kind of crazy it might have gotten for some people who loved Prince so much and who loved Sign of the Times to think his very next project was unreleased and it was being praised by these other artists, saying it was like one of the best albums of the year, even though it wasn't actually released. I can imagine, the fervor around trying to get your hands on a copy, even if it was some crappy, like third dubbed version off, like a dub of a dub of a dub type of situation. At least you got to hear it and you got to feel kind of like what it was all about. And it almost like it was never going to be able to live up to that, those expectations for anybody who bought it in 1994. One, because there was just so much hype around it, quote unquote legendary status, as it says right there on the sticker. And number two, it's a bit dated sounding. So if you're expecting like a real cutting edge kind of album in 1994, it's not what you're going to get. I mean, Dead on It is a perfect example. We're not here to talk about Dead on It, but that song sounds like mid-'80s rap.
I was just about to say that, yeah. Exactly.
And by 1994, rap had evolved like tremendously because, such a new genre, so, it had nowhere else to go, but it had everywhere to go. Like, there was no limitations. So for the rap sound in 1994 was light years ahead of what rap sounded like in 1986. So even if you weren't sure, just listening to Dead On It would give anybody a clue, unless he was trying to do some throwback thing. But people weren't recording throwback rap songs in the mid 90s yet. I mean, not enough time had passed.
Yeah, even back then when I had bought the cassette tape, and I just kept looking at the album cover, which is, well, mainly the sticker. It's like the legendary Black Album. And I was trying to figure out what was so legendary about it. Because listening to it, I enjoyed it. But like you said, at that time in 94, I was like, yeah, this does sound dated. Looking back on it, that's how I felt. It sounds dated, but I also enjoyed it. I think if I had heard it back in 87 or even 88, if I had heard about it in real time, I probably would have felt different in comparison to the first time I heard it in 94. But over the years, I've definitely grown to appreciate the album. It's it slaps. It's definitely a good album.
This is an album that I have grown to enjoy more over time because it wasn't what I was looking for from Prince in 1994.
Same here.
And I didn't have, and I, like, just like you, I didn't have the experience of knowing that it existed and then never being able to hear it for 7 years. So when it was finally released and I saw, again, like you saw Legendary, I'm like, why? Yeah. Why? Again, why is this legendary? So then I had to read reviews about it, and reviews kind of told me like, oh yeah, this is the album Prince decided not to release at the last minute in 1987. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's finally being released, but I expected it to be some masterpiece, and when I listened to it, I didn't get masterpiece. I just got a cool, funky album, but not
Right,
masterpiece.
right.
Yeah.
Same here, because when I had read the book by Pierre Nilsson, Dance Music, Sex, Romance. I remember when that book came out. I can't remember what year. I want to say maybe late 80s, not 80s, I'm sorry, late 90s, early 2000s. But in that book, he sort of went into more detail about the whole, the origin of the Black Album. So then it started to make a little bit more sense to me. But I still felt at that time, it seems like the whole, I think the mystique of it is what it sort of intrigues people. Rather than, because it didn't really live up to the hype, I guess. Like you were
Mhm.
saying. But so yeah, it's. I think it's just more so the whole mystique about it, and the alleged experience that he had with ecstasy, and with Ingrid uh,
Chavez. Yeah.
Chavez,
Yeah.
yeah, and things like that. I mean, I don't know if he was doing it with her, or
Yeah.
but
She's come
I've
out
heard
and
that
said that
story.
she has said recently that she had nothing to do with that, but
Right,
none of us were there, so.
exactly. Yep.
But yeah, either or. I mean, and again, the reason why I'm putting this after Sign of the Times for my podcast is because I'm trying to kind of draw a line through Prince's lyrics and trying to get from point A to B all the way to Z, from For You to Hit and Run Phase 2. And when I'm going through lyrics, these songs were written in this time frame, so I want the opportunity to make connections to songs that he was writing and recording around the same time. So it just makes more sense for me to talk about the lyrics to songs that were written in 86, 87 when I'm covering other albums that were recorded in 86, 87, like Sign of the Times and Love Sexy. Because as you mentioned, it is really a bridge between those two records. And it's an important piece of his evolution as an artist and as a lyricist and all, and as a spiritual human being, to go from some songs. I mean, he was exploring spirituality and around the world in a day. He had a few songs on Sign of the Times that you could point to that. But
Hmm.
then, just like any human being, you have flaws, and maybe sometimes you kind of take a different path than the one you were originally on, and you have a detour, and next thing you know, you're down this, kind of dark road where, he didn't have his band anymore, the Revolution in late '86. He hadn't, because when, like, specifically Le Grind, which is the song we're talking about, he was like
Hmm.
in between bands. I mean, he had band members
Sure.
that he was keeping with him, like, the horn section of Eric in Atlanta. They were going to stay with him. He kept Dr. Fink ultimately. He
Hmm.
was incorporating, Sheila E. Moore into his band. She was more than just, a side act or, a protege. She was an
Right.
actual member of Prince's forthcoming touring band. So it's not like
Right.
he didn't have anybody, he didn't like dismiss all of them, but he still had
Right.
his boys, Wally and Greg, and, and I think he
Miko
was
Weaver.
in
Miko
Nico.
Weaver
Yep,
was
he
still
stuck
there.
with him for the Sign of the Times. Yep,
Hmm.
exactly. So I think it was just a period of. I feel like it was just a period of change. He just also broken up with Susanna, and he was going through a lot around this time. I feel like. I mean, I wasn't there, so I'm speculating. But just the music that he was writing around this time, you could sometimes tell like some of the songs were kind of angry or a little aggressive, and I think that there's been stories told by like some of his engineers, Susan Rogers at the time, that he would sometimes write a really kind of angry song and then follow it up with a really beautiful spiritual song because he's trying to show both sides of himself or feel guilty about it, and that's, I guess, what he ultimately felt about the Black Album. He felt a little guilty about the content within, and decided just he didn't want that to be the last work of art that he created. If he was to die tomorrow, he didn't want the
Right.
Black Album to be the last thing he created, and that was his words.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, I've actually seen that quote in one of the Prince books that I own, and but But even when I read that even intrigued me more. Like, and I can't remember if I had it at the time. Maybe I did. So, and I kept on trying to figure out, well, what's so bad about it? Because in
Yeah,
comparison to, I mean, I'll say this: there are some explicit stuff. Now, well, to your point, when he said that he was a little angry, yeah, I can kind of hear a little bit of that. But also, for me, I also hear a lot of humor on the album too.
for
So,
sure. Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah. I even think like a song like Bob George, which
oh
I'll
yeah,
get to later. I think that song is funny as hell.
me too, me too.
I love that song because I find it funny. Yes, it's dark. It's like dark humor, but I
Yes, it
like
is.
dark
It
humor.
is. Yeah.
I dig
Oh
dark
yeah.
humor.
Oh yeah.
And it's not like he completely dismissed, like he didn't want to erase the Black Album from existence completely, because he utilized some of the songs on this unreleased album at the time in his Love Sexy tour in
Right.
1988. So
Hmm.
for somebody who was like, yeah, I'm sorry, don't buy the Black Album, but he also understood like it had a place. It had a place in his development as an artist, and he used that really kind of creatively and brilliantly in the Love Sexy tour to represent,
Absolutely.
the dark side, the spooky electric dark side of human nature and of himself, by
Hmm.
having parts of songs like Bob George and Rock Hard in the Funky Place, put that on stage to represent, the dark side of Prince, and also just of humans in general, jealousy and sexuality and lust and violence and the stuff that those songs represent,
Yeah,
before
right.
he of course evolved into the spiritual half of that tour, which was the
Hmm.
Love Sexy side. So yeah, and this song isn't evil. I don't think, I don't listen to Legrand and think,
No.
wow, it's a really evil song.
Right. No. No.
You
Same
know,
here. Yeah.
it's to me it basically shares a similar vibe, and kind of kind of almost like the flip side to like a song like Housequake. So
Yes.
yeah, Housequake is just is also, it's a Camille song, but he doesn't do a Camille voice in Legrand. But the gist of Housequake is that he's created this new dance, and he's just trying to get everybody hyped up to perform it with him and get the party started, and it's kind of sexy, and it's fun and all those things. It's basically a party song about a
Right.
dance that he's created called Housequake. Well, guess what Legrind's about? It's about a dance, but it's a song that really kind of has the same or similar themes as Housequake. He's the party starter. He's the MC. He's
Yep.
the guy who's trying to get everybody to follow along with this nouveau dance that he's created
Hmm.
called Le Grind, or Le Grind, because he still got his his obsession with France and French language
Yes.
going on in this
Hmm.
song.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
this is a pretty long song. It's like almost 7 minutes, not quite, like 6:45 or something like that, and it's
Hmm.
got lyrics all throughout. So a lot of it's repeating, and a lot of it's just kind of like chanting of lyrics and lines that had
Hmm.
been previously presented earlier in the song. So there's going to be a lot of like stuff that we don't have to pour over in depth. But the first few verses for sure we'll talk about. Before we get started on digging into the lyrics, Micah, did you have anything else you wanted to say about the song in general? Like, what do you feel about Le Grind, just generally speaking, as an album opener and as a song in general?
Well, I think this is a great album opener. I mean, this really sets the tone, as far as the quote unquote the funk Bible. So yeah, I think this is like I said, a great album opener, and this will be one of my favorite tracks on the album.
Yeah, yeah, and as I mentioned before we get started again, this was recorded in December of '86, about the same time that he was still recording like the final pieces of the Sign of the Times record, which was "You Got the Look," and which was also recorded in December of '86. So he's just finalizing like his next album, and he's recording songs for what would end up being the Black Album. Even though the way I understand it, and the way it's kind of been described on Prince Vault, is that this was one of the songs that he had recorded for a birthday party for Sheila E.
That's right.
On December 11th, 1986. So I don't even know if
Mm-hmm.
he had like an album in mind at the time when this song was recorded. I think maybe he was just recording a really kind of fun party song to perform at Sheila's party, because what a great gift, right? Like you have
Oh yeah.
one of your friends is Prince. What better gift can you give somebody than a brand new song that was kind of created just for your party? That's cool as
Right.
hell.
And the song is appropriate just for that a party. I mean, I'm really surprised I don't hear this song being played at a lot of Prince parties. I mean, it definitely should get a little bit more love to all my fellow Purple family out there who throws Prince parties. So
Hmm.
they
Hint,
need to.
hint. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Legrind's a jam. Yeah, it absolutely is a party
absolutely,
starter, and even if the party's
for
already
sure,
going, it'll keep it going because it's that song. It's that kind of song. Uh,
absolutely.
Horns were added later and some vocal overdubs. I mean,
Yes,
it's
yes,
got like a
the
party
horn.
feel to it, kind of like House Quake, where he's trying to get people to chant with him and repeating lines, and you hear vocals like Prince Vault's got Bonnie Boyer listed, Cat Glover listed, Sheila
Hmm.
E. listed, Jill Jones, Susanna Melvoin. So it would if Susanna was on it, it would have had to have been done before they broke up, because they broke up early in or late '86. I can't
Right.
imagine he would bring her back into the studio in '87 to record a vocal overdub. So some of that stuff might have been done in '86 for the Sheila E. party, and some of it
Hmm.
might have been added later, before, when he was already thinking that this maybe could be an aspect of my next album, or be included for my next album. I think some of these dates are not entirely written in stone, but you have to assume like some of this was done in '87 if he had the album ready, pressed and ready to go by December of '87. So
Right.
the timing makes sense.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Okay, so we should probably get going on the lyrics. So the first thing we hear, like pretty much right away, after the beat kicks in, is you've got like this really low, like Prince's voice is in this lower register. It almost sounds a little bit like the voice he does for Bob George. Not exactly, but it's definitely lower, and it's actually pretty hard to hear underneath the
Yeah.
music that's there. But so
It's real
I for
buried in the mix a little
super
bit. Yeah.
buried.
Yeah.
Exactly, very buried, but there's some key lines in here. So I'm just going to read what he says at the beginning, like in this spoken intro. So you found me. Good. I'm glad. This is Prince, the cool of cools. Some of you may not know this, but some of you may know. Some of you may not want to know. We are here to do service. Please don't try to stop us, for we come regardless. For we are strong as we are intelligent. So come vibe with us. Welcome to the Funk Bible, the New Testament. So that's a pretty cool intro. I mean, he's trying to, I think, kind of try to express quite a bit of, trying to kind of express like maybe what the idea behind the album is going to be,
Hmm.
mentioning the Funk Bible, the New Testament, um, and also just like lines like, "Don't try to stop us. We're strong.
Right.
We're intelligent." I feel like there's maybe some multiple meanings behind lines like that. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I'll say like for the part where he says, "You found me good. I'm glad." I wonder, and he says this is Prince. I'm wondering if he's sort of speaking to the fans who sort of maybe shied away from him
Mhm.
after Purple Rain, or maybe after Around the World in a Day, because I've heard stories over the years where mixed stories about people dug the album. Some people didn't know what to make of the album, and they just couldn't get into it. As far as the musical direction they were going, they were more so into what he did from For You to 1999, or even Purple Rain. So, and with him getting criticism from certain writers. I think Nelson George probably was one of them, who said that he sort of alienated his core audience, his black audience, and maybe forgot his funk roots. So that's who I maybe think he's sort of speaking to, in that regard. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's definitely some clear, like you said, you found me. I'm glad. Hey, I'm back. My name is Prince. I'm still that guy. I'm still the guy that I was when you maybe first started listening to me in 1979. I went on a different path for a while. Revolution made me huge, helped make me huge. Obviously, the Revolution didn't write the music, but I think my point is that, Prince with the Revolution was when he was at his most critical and at that time popular apex, like from a crossover perspective. But they're gone. They're gone. I'm starting a new chapter in my career, and one thing I'm going to do is, extend this olive branch to any of my former fans that kind of fell off after a while. Wasn't feeling Parade, wasn't feeling Around the World in a Day. Thought Sign of the Times had some cool stuff, but was too eclectic or mixed bag. This album is going to be all about maybe trying to win some of his old audience back, and I think that's astute observation, Micah.
Yeah.
And just the lines like I mentioned, before we come, regardless, we are strong and we are intelligent. I'm wondering if he's also kind of talking about, just the black community in general, like as another aspect of trying to win some of his core fans back. It's like, I'm on some pro-black shit right now, and I'm going to express that here on this song, or maybe not so much on the song, but at least in the intro, because the song is mostly just about dancing and partying.
Yeah.
He's not like dropping Public Enemy style rhymes on the song. But he just I don't know. I mean, I just kind of get that a little bit. And then to call it the Funk Bible, the New Testament, it does feel like he's trying to open up a new chapter in his career, at least for one album, if nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I never actually thought about that, as far as he, when he says, we are strong and we are intelligent. Yeah, you might be right about that.
Yeah, just a guess. Don't really know, obviously, but something to think about.
I'll take it.
Yeah, and please don't try to stop us. I like that line just because. It feels like he's on, he's on a train that's heading down the tracks, and this whole album is going to be pure, unadulterated funk. And don't try to stop it. This is the way it's going to be. You're not going to hear, the pop hooks. The Minneapolis sound is a little bit dead to him at this point, or at least he's being evolved. And it's just the new thing. It's the New Testament. So get on board.
Yeah, I think that part where he says, "Please don't try to stop us," for we come regardless. I think that's the rebel in him. Yeah, just hey, like I'm not afraid of anybody. So
yeah. So come vibe with us. Welcome to the Funk Bible. All right. So then the first real, because that's the intro. Then the first real lyrics that you hear in his normal singing voice: "People get ready, nouveau dance here. All the girls and all the boys, get close, have no fear. We're gonna do a grind, y'all. Got you where I want you, and girl, it's gonna feel so good. Up and down on the beach, y'all, like a pony would. Using the word nouveau dance, nouveau meaning new, basically. It's
more modern.
Exactly. So he's kind of expressing the elements of this new dance, moving up and down. It's called Le Grind, also again in French. So the grind, you can already get some visuals when you call a dance the grind, because he mentioned grinding as a euphemism for having sex in Darling Nikki.
Right.
So at least I get visuals of just being like this really kind of sweaty, sexy atmosphere, bodies really close together, um, basically having sex with your clothes on, for lack of a
Yeah,
better word. That's the kind of
yeah.
vibe or the kind of imagery I get when he's calling
Hmm.
the song "The Grind" or "La Grind." What do you get out of this first section of lyrics, Micah?
Yeah, I think I have to pretty much co-sign with you, Jason. I would use the phrase more so dry humping, if anything.
Yep.
So that's pretty much how I sort of the imagery that I get. I just get this vision of this is a party. You have all these lights. The lights, it's dark in there. Um, and it's just like it's just wild. And you, like you said, you have people with their clothes on. You might even have some people over in the corner somewhere, or even in the middle of the dance floor, getting like even more wild, undressing
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
Because
Really getting busy. Yep.
exactly because the way that he starts off the lyrics for me, it sort of reminds me of it harkens back to DMSR a little bit, just sort of giving instructions and everything. But yeah, that's just pretty much how I get it. Very just very open.
Hmm.
So
It's funny you mentioned DMSR because I have that in my notes too. I'm like, I literally wrote
see,
down harkens back to songs such as DMSR. So, I'm sure you didn't
see,
look at my notes.
no, no sir, no sir.
That's
Hey,
funny. Well, I mean,
uh,
it just kind of reiterates like I think we're on the right path or the same path here. We think.
absolutely.
I mean, he's done
Oh
a
yeah,
song like this before. He's done songs like this before. It's
yeah.
not DMSR, Housequake. Now it's
Hmm.
the grind. So
There you
it's
go.
just it's
Yeah.
just introducing a new dance. And I just want to call out two things before we move on. So Nouveau, there was a big hit in 1987, "Lean on Me" by Club Nouveau. So that word was kind of
Hmm.
already, I wouldn't say popular, but people had heard of it because of Club Nouveau. So if this would have been a radio hit, they would have kind of already knew what the word meant potentially. And then the lines going up and down on the beach, all like a pony would, pony would. Of course, we get the Cat Glover's rap on Alphabet Street on the next album when she talks about jerking your body like a horny pony would. Now run and tell your mom about that. So it's kind of like he's saying it here, but then the whole imagery of using a pony to kind of express the sexuality and movement that goes along with sex has been done. He did it later, and then of course you have the song "Horny Pony," which found its way onto the "Get Off" single as a B-side in 1991. So he liked this idea of
He seemed to have a interesting fascination, excuse me, with ponies. To me,
horses and ponies. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Yes,
Oh yeah.
it's not imagined; it's real. There's many examples.
Mhm.
This is just another one. So yeah, just wanted to call that out because it's very similar to the cat rap on Alphabet Street. Okay, so then moving on, then we get more lyrics. "La Grind. All the boys grab a girl, get down on the floor. This funky beat's gonna show you what your hips are made for. Nouveau grind. Come on. People, it's much too late. It's much too late to be shy. London, what does Big Ben say? Time to do la grind. No, here you say, time to do la grind." There's, I mean, this next line, these next grouping of lines, I don't think have quite as many interesting aspects. I mean, London, what does Big Ben say? He's just calling out London just to give him a shout out. I feel, I don't know.
Mhm.
They don't
And
really see.
he's actually doing it in a London accent too. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
kind of a half-assed accent, but an
yeah,
accent
true.
nonetheless.
Hmm.
Yeah, but again, just boys grab a girl, get on the floor. It's a funky beat. Show you what your hips are made for. So, you know, a dance like La Grind, you're going to be shaking your hips. You're going to be grinding your hips, dry humping, using your hips. I mean, it's all very
There you go. Yes.
hip driven dance. I get the impression it's not
Oh
a
yeah.
dance that you use your shoulders very much. It's very hip hip driven is what I'm getting from this. Much too late to be shy. So basically, get out there and really kind of go for it. That's what this.
Get up on it. Yeah.
Yep, get up on it. That's what this dance is all about.
Oh yeah.
Don't be shy. So the next grouping of lyrics, which we do, you get a little more of Prince speaking French. Le grind, baby, I got you where I want you. Now I got you where I want you. He repeats, want you. Ce soir, le chante, all night long. Ce soir, chante, all night long. Pretty mama with the long hair, is that your boyfriend? Ha, I don't care, because I can do tricks he can never do. When I get naked, we'll see the real you. Am I getting through? I got you where I want you, baby, baby. And then he says, piano man, put it where it feel good. And then you start to hear the tinkling of pianos. So again, the French, for anybody who doesn't feel like Googling translate, ce soir la chante means tonight sing it, basically, or this evening sing it is the literal, but I think maybe more accurately would be tonight sing it. All night long, sing Le Grand.
Sing it all night long, yeah.
Yep, exactly. Let's see. Pretty mama with the long hair, is that your boyfriend? I don't care. So I think he's done things like that before where he's kind of like pretty irreverent towards girls and women who maybe came with a man, but if he's interested, you know what? Forget him. I'm going to...
Right.
You're going to come home with me at the end of the night.
Yeah, I think this was an example of Prince sort of doing some dirty macking, I would say.
I can do tricks he can never do. So he's basically trying to talk himself up here to be the superior lover, I would say, because I don't think he's talking about magic tricks.
No.
When I get naked, we'll see the real you, which is kind of an interesting line. Instead of when I get naked, we'll see the real me. He says when I get naked, we'll see the real you. So maybe he's trying to say, like, once we get alone and we can get each other's clothes off, I'll get to see, the real you, meaning like you don't have to be so shy or have to be so
reserved.
Reserved. Thank you. Yes, exactly. You can really let yourself go and let yourself enjoy the moment.
Oh yeah, because it's a different party behind closed doors.
That's the impression I'm getting.
Yeah. Saying when I get naked, he probably was just, just saying, well, we'll see what your reaction is gonna, what it's gonna be, when, like I said, when I put you in a situation where, anything goes, and those are very princely lines, the nasty, the rude boy side.
Yeah, he's definitely portraying that, that lover man, the kind that can steal your girl, and the ultra confident guy who's gonna do what it takes to have fun, and if he sees somebody he wants, he's just gonna go for it, and he's not gonna care if she came with somebody else, as I already mentioned. This is right. and she's going to go along with it because he's damn it, he's the cool of the cools, as he mentioned in the intro.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the cool of cools.
Oh
yeah. So I like this verse a little bit better just because it has some interesting. I mean, I can't do the lyrics complete justice just reading them. Like, it's kind of cooler the way he sings them. Some of the lines are sung in one way, and then he'll go to the next line and it'll be sung slightly different. Some of them are a little more spoken. Some are more proper singing voice. He's got just some French, and also there's a lot of like background or echoing of lines here as well that happens throughout the song. I don't always do the echoing parts because it doesn't really come across as well when you're just reading lyrics, but listen to the song, you got kind of the cool echoing lines. That's always fun to do, and especially when it's somebody else's voice. And right. This is where, like, the women that I had already mentioned at the beginning of the song that are credited for being on here, I imagine we got several of them kind of singing together and creating this the sound of multiple voices out in the crowd singing along with Prince. This party is going to last all night. When I give the cue, scream, all right? Party! party. You say it, party, party, clap your hands double time, and you get some, fast claps. And this is where, like, a lot of this feels very DMSR. Like,
I was just about to say that.
I probably wrote in my notes when I was listening to this part of the song, like, this is like DMSR, pretty much exactly. Dance, dance, music, music, sex, sex, romance. So it's kind of the same kind of vibe. Party, party. And he says, all the boys say, yeah, 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 yeah. All the girls say, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Now all you others say, hell yeah, hell yeah. Too sexy.
Too sexy.
Too sexy. And I always think when I hear too sexy, for some reason, I get Morris's voice in my head. Too sexy. But but that was a Sheila E. song, right? I mean, that was a B-side.
Right.
That Sheila E. sang. I mean, of course, it's still written by Prince, but... yeah, so anything you wanted to mention about this part of the song? It's kind of just a fun part.
Oh, yeah. See, I was going to say, I think this part sort of... I think this was definitely speak to some of the critics or the fans who felt like, yeah, this is not the same Prince that I got introduced to, like, as far as 1999. I think this is his way of saying or showing, hey, I'm still that guy. Like, I can still do stuff that's similar to what you heard, 3, 4, 5 albums, before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can make basically DMSR Part 2.
Pretty much.
And just update the sound a little bit. It's not quite as Lindrum, heavy.
Right.
It's the nouveau grind, so of course it's going to be new.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's like DMSR Part 2 in many ways. And then he has like this little line, kind of like throwaway line towards the end, which is kind of fun. Not yet, Bonnie. And of course, it's got to be referring to Bonnie Boyer. I don't know who else he'd be referring to there.
Right. Yeah.
It's the only one that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. You've got a lot more grinds repeated. Get ready, nouveau dance. Girls and boys get close. Have no fear. Doing the grind in here. Oh, I might have skipped. Oh yeah, after like the get not yet Bonnie, and before we start getting to some of this, you've got this heavy breathing part of the song. I missed that because there's really no lyrics to it. It's just and he does that for a while, and so I just get like this really heavy breathing because either you're having sex or you're dancing too hard or whatever. You're just horny. I don't know.
I think it's all the above. I think it's all the above. Yes, I really do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just got that kind of sound to it where you got also the imagery of picking up the phone and getting an obscene phone call. You get the heavy breathing on the other end, but I just get more like, because if you're really doing the grind on the dance floor and really going for it the way Prince implores you to throughout the song, you're probably working up a sweat. You've got some cardio. You've been doing your cardio tonight, and what do people do after they've done cardio? They pant a little bit. They have to breathe heavy and hard. So, not surprising.
Oh yeah, I mean, he said this funky beat is going to show you what your hips are made for. So, this song is definitely going to put you to work, so to speak.
I do believe that we've truly touched on something nouveau. So it's kind of like a weird, like sophisticated line. I do believe that we've truly touched on something nouveau. Okay, yeah, you might have, or you just created a fun dance song, Prince. I don't think it's really all that deep, Le Grind, but sure,
right.
We've touched on something. I just find it a little bit humorous that you put so much seriousness into a line like that. But maybe it's tongue in cheek too.
Maybe, but you know what? When for years, I always used to sort of wonder, like, if this was going to be a new dance. Like what? I wonder if people was going to show what this dance was going to look like. Just out of curiosity, for me.
Yeah.
But
remember that MTV show, The Grind? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember that show. Yeah.
It was like a dance party type show, but also like almost a bit of a workout show. I think it
Right.
was
Yep.
hosted by that guy, Eric Nees, who was on
The
Real
real
World.
world. Yep.
Yeah. And
Right.
so he was like, he was like a fitness guy, athlete, whatever. And so I think he was kind of, and I don't know if it had anything to do with this. I mean, it's the Grind TV show I looked up when it started. It started in 1992. So it came
Right.
out before this officially got a release. So, the grind or grinding as a dance slash exercise routine, I don't think was something Prince invented. I think is just kind of he wanted to throw on a little bit of a like this French, um, I don't know, like an aspect of the French culture onto it to make it nouveau, make it different than just straight up grinding on the dance floor. But then the way he
Hmm.
describes it, it sounds basically just like straight up grinding on the dance floor. So I don't know if to your point, if he had like this dance in mind, some elaborate dance, I'm not sure what that would look like because all I just get is really simplistic dry humping. To your point,
Probably.
I don't know what else it would be. It'd be interesting to see if he had a dance in mind or if he just really wanted to make a song that got a little dirty, down and dirty, and kind of set the tone for the rest of the album.
Yeah. Well, I remember hearing um, from somebody over in France. They're pretty. It's a, I guess, erotic place. Or I'm sure a lot of those cities over there in Europe, they're pretty open to a lot of sexuality. I remember hearing somebody say that, I mean, you can even watch porn on TV for free. I don't know how true that is. I've never been
No,
on a
it's
TV
true.
set.
It's I don't know
Oh,
about
okay.
France, but I've been to Amsterdam, and you could
Oh,
turn the TV station in any regular TV station in Amsterdam and find a porn channel. This was
wow.
early 2000s. I doubt that it's changed much, but yeah.
Right.
So not as repressed as a society and as we are in the United States when it comes to matters of sex. And
Hmm.
We know Prince spent a decent amount of time over in France making Under the Cherry Moon. Um,
That's
Clearly fell in love with the culture there for a while. It
mm-hmm.
influenced that whole album cycle, and from a visual aesthetics, from a little bit of sound as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, it could be this song even was maybe had its genesis from or its origin story back to when he was living in France. You just don't know. Very well could be.
Good point.
Very well could be. Maybe he saw something in a club in France. It was like, shit, we don't do that in the U.S. I've gone to dance clubs in the U.S. and it doesn't get this nasty. And maybe he
Right.
thought, like, I need to bring this over to the United States. We're going to do
Yeah.
Le Grind, y'all, and we're going to make this a thing.
All right. Yeah, that could have been. I mean, you're right. That could have been the inspiration behind it. And going back to what you were saying about the TV show, The Grind on MTV. The When I first bought this cassette and I seen the track listing, "La Grind," that's pretty much what I thought of was the MTV TV show. That was the first thing that came to mind. So that's funny.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, whatever. I mean, it doesn't really matter anymore. But unfortunately, in '94, it looked like Prince was maybe copying a little bit of the MTV show, when clearly it was the other way around. If
Right.
there was any kind of influence at all, it would have been the other way around.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's not a whole lot more in terms of like new lyrics. There's a lot of like la la's and come on and are you sure's and grind, come on, girl, put it where it feels good. That's kind of a standout line towards the end. Put it where it feels good. Just
Yes.
the double entendres, just trying to get a little dirty. Put
Hmm.
what? Put what where it feels good, Prince. He's like, well, you figure that out
Hmm.
yourself. I'm not gonna explicitly tell you, but you can take it however you want.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Then he says slamming, and of course I got to bring up slamming because he says slamming and you got the look, which was recorded the exact same month as this one. So
Yeah.
that was a word he really was gravitating towards at that time. Didn't use slamming a whole lot afterward, but late '86 he liked that word slamming.
Yeah.
And then he starts talking a little bit more about the pony part, like how to reenact some of the dance moves if you think of yourself as a pony, up and down, feels so good. Up and down, like a pony would. And he repeats that a few more times. And he's got, I don't
I
know
wonder
if it's
what he's
cat.
talking about there. Up and
I don't
down.
know, man. I have no idea. No clue.
Hmm.
Never thought of it before, Mike.
Maybe he was talking about when I getting a pogo stick. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Yes, that must be it. Must be it. Then we get another line that kind of has some interesting, or kind of an interesting take. Is you hear a woman say, "Serve it up, Frankie." She says that "Serve it up, Frankie" was a reference to DJ Frankie Knuckles, who, and this is apparently something that she would say during like mic checks and warm ups during performances, and she would say "Serve it up, Frankie" just as a callback to the DJ Frankie Knuckles, who I guess was a popular DJ at the time. Mm-hmm. So that's what she's saying there, and that's what it's referring to. It's not like there's a member of Prince's posse at the time that was Frankie. I'm like, God dang, I thought we knew everybody in his posse at this time. That was Frankie. Right. But it's not really about a person named Frankie that was part of Prince's crew. It was just a reference to this DJ.
Yeah, going back listening to this song in preparation for this episode, I sort of made that connection. And I believe Frankie Knuckles was from Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, which is where Cat is from too. And,
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
makes sense. Yeah. So I just assume that's Cat saying that, since it was her story to come up with, that line to kind of ad lib it in or just throw it in there because it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
After he says, "Put it where it feels good," not there, not there. It's just some of these lines are kind of funny, Maybe this is the quote unquote evil part, like when he was maybe feeling a little like he went a little too far with some of these lines, even though I don't think so. There's nothing too explicit here. It's all double entendres and things like that, where you could take it to mean anything. But if you just put it in the context of Le Grind, it's going to come across a little dirty. But does it have to be?
Yeah, and then he screams too after he says, "Not there, not there," which is that's distinct too. It's like, okay,
Yeah. You just have to kind of let your imagination run wild with what's going on there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, but that's basically the song. People get ready. He repeats at the very end of the song. People get ready. Doing the grind up in here. People get ready. And then I think there's another Frankie reference. Frankie, how do you know? And then finally it just says grind. And then the song will then go right into the next track on the album, which is Cindy C. So basically 6 minutes and like 44 seconds of straight up dance, funk.
Up and down, yes.
Like up and down, we're all tired at this point, man. This is it's a fun song. I do really like this track. I mean, I like this whole album, but this is one of the standouts for me. It's not the standout, but it's one of the better ones in my opinion. Right. I like how it kind of opens up the album.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. I really like this song. I think it's as I said before, I think it's a very good album opener, and just sets the tone and everything. So, and also I think it transitions very good over into Cindy C as well.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It's a great 1-2 punch to kick off the album for sure.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, Micah, we have gone on quite a while on basically just a fun dance song. So I think we'll wrap it up. Do you have any final thoughts or final things you wanted to mention about the song or the album in general, or you think we covered it all?
I think we covered it all. For those who've never heard the Black Album, I highly recommend it. It's definitely a must-have. So,
yep,
that's pretty much it.
I will co-sign that as well. So, Micah, where can people find you in Purple Underground?
You can find the Purple Underground. We're on YouTube. Just look us up. It's me and the guy, my good friend and partner in crime, Perry Ross. Also, I failed to mention this the last time I was on. We also had two other members. I just want to shout them out. Lenny B, aka L Boogie, and my lovely girlfriend, Laura Kane. We call her the good luck charm of the group, or we also call her LC. So I just want to shout those two out. Also, you can find us on Instagram, The Purple Underground, and you can find my personal page on Facebook and Instagram at Micah Simpson _CMS.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Micah, for being on this episode. I've been your host. Yep, I've been your host, Jason Brenninger. This has been the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. You can find the show, Press Rewind Pod, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also on YouTube under the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast name. Check it out if you dig that platform for listening to podcasts or just listening to Prince music as I find it. If it's stuff that maybe isn't widely known or distributed, if it doesn't get pulled down, it's going to be on my YouTube page. So check it out. And until next time, thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.